you're speaking on the issue of can we solve the global water crisis? So first of all, how bad is the global water crisis? And second of all, can we solve it?
I think the global water crisis is far worse than most people imagine, because it includes both the water quality and the water quantity components. And when you put those two together, I'm sorry to say that it is almost an unsolvable problem. And so what I like to tell people is not that we need to bury our heads, but that we need to learn how to manage our way through. We're not going to end it, but we can manage our way through.
The Great Lakes make up about 20% of the freshwater supply in volume in the world. How do the Great Lakes fit into this crisis? How do the health of those lakes fit in?
Well, the health, of course, is very important, but from a quantity perspective, you might imagine that there's a giant bullseye that can be seen from space that's sitting over the Great Lakes, meaning that it's a target area, in a sense, for the rest of the country. Because there's so much fresh water, you can imagine that 50 years from now, well, we're already talking about this, but 50 years from now, there might actually be a pipeline that brings water from the Great Lakes to Phoenix. Right? I think that that's part of our future.
So the protections that we have on who can draw from the Great Lakes watershed, you think those will go away just out of necessity?
I think the only way that would happen would be with national intervention, and we actually lack that national water policy in this country. And I think that for these reasons, right, that we do have water in some places. The northern half of the country has a lot more water than the southern half. And so as the population grows and as climate continues to change, we probably will have to move water from where it is to where it is not, and that will require some rethinking of some of these policies and laws.
There has been tremendous effort over the decades to restore the Great Lakes to a healthier status that we see now, but we're seeing in the new administration there are proposals to cut back on the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, for example. There are proposals to cut back on what the EPA can do and the focus that the EPA has. I mean, just generally, can you talk about what impact this might have on the progress that we've seen in the Great Lakes and overall water health?
Right. Well, you know, I'm a child of the 60s and was raised with the birth of the environmental movement and watching the rivers on fire and all that. We've made so much progress. We have so much momentum. And this current generation of young people is really interested in environmental science, and they're very environmentally aware, very committed to sustainability. It'd be a huge mistake to undo all that fine work that's been done. I can't emphasize really enough that undoing the progress that we've made over the past decades would take generations to recover from.
We've seen a number of officials coming into this administration being labeled as climate skeptics. A lot of your work has looked at how climate change affects the water cycle and affects our water sources. What does this, how do you accept this?
Resist.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. The challenge is we have to educate. So, you know, I'm fundamentally an educator. And so that means education and communication on both sides of the aisle. And as scientists, we present the facts, we present our findings. I go an extra step in terms of communicating and trying to make sure people really understand what's happening, what the implications are. And that's really all you can do. You just have to. So my role is to get the skeptics what I feel is the best information on my piece of the water pie.
And just a last question. It seems many water issues have been in the headlines recently, and not for good reasons. We've seen the drought in California. We saw the dam in Northern California, that issue. Do you think that there is momentum behind just awareness of where we are in water scarcity and water issues, or is this a mission that you have to keep undertaking? Yeah,
it's the latter. It's a lifetime mission, and that's why I have students to train the communication soldiers of the future. And I think your example of going from the driest point ever really in California recorded history to the wettest point in a period of about 2 years is a prime example of how people are more focused on the fact that we have more water, and so therefore they don't have to worry about water scarcity anymore. And that's just not true. The truth is that we use, in the West, more water than we have available to us on an annual renewable basis, even during wet years. And we use a lot of it to grow food. And so that's never going to change. And so we have to always be thinking about how we can use water most efficiently.